Good morning, class 7. Today we are going to start with history, second chapter, New Kings and Kingdoms. In the 7th century till 12th century, it was the beginning of medieval period. This is what we have studied in the previous chapter. So obviously, we will be talking how new kingdoms came up and about their administrations. Okay, let's begin the chapter. Many new dynasties emerged after the 7th century. Map 1 shows the major ruling dynasties in different parts of the subcontinent between the 7th and 12th centuries. Now, what do you mean by subcontinent? Subcontinent is a landmass which is in comparison to a continent, it is a smaller in size. Why do we call India as a subcontinent? Because it is a distinct landmass and not just a country. So that is why we call India a subcontinent. You can see the map. There you can see the boundaries of Chahamanas, that is separated by that red lines. Then you can see Rashtrakutas behind, just after Chahamanas, and you can see Palas. So we will be studying about these three dynasties. Apart from them, we will be getting some information on Cholas, Cheras, Pandyas. So let's begin the chapter. The emergence of new dynasties. By the 7th century, there were big landlords or warrior chiefs in different regions of the subcontinent. Existing kings often acknowledged them as their subordinates or samantas. They were expected to bring gifts for their kings or overlords, be present at their courts, and provide them with military support. As samantas gained power and wealth, they declared themselves to be Mahasamantas, Mahamandaleshwar. The Mahamandaleshwar means the great lord of a circle or region, and so on. Sometimes they asserted their independence from their overlords. So in the 7th century, what happened was that there were big landlords who had huge land areas under their suzerainty. So they were declared by the kings as the samantas or subordinates to the king. So samantas were, in a way you can say, the helpers for the kings. And what was expected from them? That they should bring gifts for the kings. That is first thing, expectation from them. Second, they were expected to be in the court, and when time arises or when it was required, they had to support the king through the military or the army which they had. Gradually what happened was that these samantas, they gained power and wealth. So what happened when they gained power and wealth? They felt that there is no need for them to be under somebody. So they declared themselves as the Mahasamantas or Mahamandaleshwar. That is, they declared themselves independent of the king, and they felt that they can rule by themselves. One such instance was that of Rashtrakutas in the Deccan. Initially, they were subordinate to the Chalukyas of Karnataka. Chalukyas we have studied in class 6. In the mid-8th century, Dantidurga, a Rashtrakuta chief, overthrew his Chalukya overlord and performed ritual called Hiranyagarbha. Its literally meaning is the golden womb. When this ritual was performed with the help of Brahmanas, it was thought to lead to the rebirth of the sacrificer as a Kshatriya, even if he was not one by birth. So we have one example of this. There was coming up of Rashtrakutas in the Deccan in the South India. Initially they were the subordinates or samantas under the Chalukya dynasty. But what happened in mid 8th century, Danti Durga, one of the Samantas, he declared himself free, and in a war he defeated the Chalukya king. And just because he was not from a Kshatriya clan, so he had to perform this yajna, which was known as Hiranya Garbha. It means the golden womb. This was performed because he was with the help of the Brahmins to prove himself to be the appropriate candidate for the becoming the ruler. So that means that when a person was not from a Kshatriya clan, people will not accept him with a wholeheartedly as a ruler. So therefore he had to perform this ritual with the help of Brahmins, so that people there could accept him as their ruler. Okay. In other cases, men from enterprising families used their military skills to carve out kingdoms. For instance, the Kadamba Mayur Sharman and the Gurjar Pratihara Harichandra were Brahmins who gave up their traditional professions and took to arms, successfully establishing kingdoms in Karnataka and Rajasthan respectively. So in other cases, we can see of one example of Kadamba dynasty where Mayur Sharman, he declared himself who was a Brahmin, and in Gurjar Pratihara Harichandra, they both were Brahmins, but they declared themselves to be independent of their king, and they stopped the work which a Brahmin was supposed to do in that era. Now we will be talking about the administration in the kingdom. Many of these new kings adopted high sounding titles such as Maharaja Dhiraj, Great King, Overlord of Kings, Tribhuvan Chakravartin, Lord of the Three Worlds. Three means three. So Tribhuvan Chakravartin, that is a person who is the Lord of the Three Worlds, and so on. However, in spite of such claims, they often shared power with their Samantas, as well as with association of peasants, traders, and Brahmanas. So the king adopted these titles, but they were helped by the Samantas, some peasants, traders, and Brahmins in the administration. In each of these states, resources were obtained from the producers, that is, peasants, cattle keepers, artisans, who were often persuaded or compelled to surrender part of what they produced. Sometimes these were claimed as rent due to a lord who asserted that he owned the land. Revenue was also collected from traders. So, when we talk about these estates, all these states had resources of their own. There were people who were working as peasants, cattle workers, cattle keepers, or herders, artisans, and they had to produce, surrender some part of the produce as in form of rent. So, to the lord who owned that land, or who was a Samanta in that area. Okay, 400 taxes. The inscriptions of the Cholas who ruled in Tamil Nadu refer to more than 400 terms of different kinds of taxes. The most frequently mentioned tax is Veti, taken not in cash but in the form of forced labor, and Kadamai or land revenue. There were also taxes on thatching the house, the use of a ladder to climb palm trees, a cess, that is again a tax on succession to family property, etc. So these were some taxes which were taken in that period, but they had different names like Veti, Kadamai, and cess. So all these, but they all are a part of the tax. These resources were used to finance the king's establishment. as well as for the construction of temples and forts. They were also used to fight wars, which were in turn expected to lead to the acquisition of wealth in the form of plunder and access to land as well as trade routes. So, the money or the tax which was collected in this way was used to finance the king's establishment. They were used for the construction of the temples, for fighting wars, for construction of forts, and they're like the all like you can say that these three things they were used for. And whatever the king, when the king waged war, he used to acquire wealth from the area. He used to try to capture the trade routes. So that was the purpose for the taxes, why the taxes were collected. The functionaries for collecting revenue were generally recruited from influential families, and positions were often hereditary. This was true about the army as well. In many cases, close relatives of the king held these positions. So, what the position of collecting the revenue was given to the influential families, and this position was hereditary. That means the father will collect the taxes, after him his son, and then again his son, and it carried on like this. And this was true about the army. In this same thing was followed in the army also. Father was working in the army, his son will take over after him, and this will continue like this. So, in many cases, close relatives of the king held these positions. That is, people from the royal family also held these positions. Please read the chapter. If you have any queries, you can send me and your questions, and I will sort it out. Try to see the map. Where are those locations of these three empires? And we will continue the chapter in the next class. Thank you, class. Take care of yourselves. Be safe at home.